Hey everybody, Yamez here with Island Metal Forge. Today in this video, continuing the electrical series, I am going to go over a brief little thing about wire sizes and address a question that I had in one of my previous videos. This is going to be sort of a companion. This is the wire video in a companion for a breaker video that I'm going to shoot and hopefully release side by side, if not side by side, within a day of each other. Now, the question was, can you convert a common everyday 110 household outlet into a 220 line? Short answer, no. It is unwise and unsafe to do so. Now, two things with that. Number one, if it's a common everyday outlet, then there are likely several other things on that circuit, and all of those would become 220 as well. If it is a dedicated outlet, then chances are if it's a common everyday household outlet, chances are it's 14 gauge or 12 gauge wire. I actually don't have any 14 gauge, but here's some 12 gauge. And the question was, I believe, about turning it into for a welder outlet. This won't run a welder. This will turn into a toaster coil before it runs a welder. I may mock something up one of these days and show you guys exactly that. We'll see. I've got a project board that I'm building, so that's going to be fun. But for example, my welder here, it's 50 amps. It's a Lincoln Tombstone, one of the old Lincoln Tombstones. It's 50 amp. It's on a 50 amp plug and a 50 amp cord and a 50 amp breaker. All of that ties in to allow the thing to work safely and properly. Now, so that answers that immediate question about that. Because when you get to when you get to wire sizes, it's like 14 gauge wire is rated for 15 amps, 12 gauge wire is rated for 20 amps, roughly. And you're really only supposed to load a breaker up to 80% of its max value. So you don't want and that's to protect the wire. You don't want 20 amps running continuously on a 20 amp breaker. You keep it around 18 or 16 amps or something like that. Whatever 80% the drop down is. As you get to bigger wire, that changes. So 12 is 20, then 30 is 10. 30 amps is 10 gauge wire. And then so on and so forth. As you get bigger, it gets a little bit more complicated. The changes are a bit different. And even when you mix from copper, this is a copper 8. When you switch from copper to aluminum, okay, it's a difference. This is number 2 copper. This is for 100 amp services. This is a piece of URD that I pulled off the shelf. It is quite thick, quite stiff. The insulation is sturdy. It's made to run 100 amps through it. So wire size is the most important aspect of what can I run on this circuit. Breaker size has nothing to do with that. Wash that out of your brain immediately. The size of the breaker does not determine how many amps you can run. Very important. So with that, throughout this series, I'll be referring to different wire sizes and breaker sizes. Just remember, the back of your mind, the size of the wire is what's important. You want the proper sized wire. I can't say it enough. So, with that, I am going to go ahead and pass you on to the breaker video right here. and I would really appreciate it if you guys toss me a subscribe. And I don't just do electric, I do some forging. So, hearts and health, everybody. Thank you for watching.